Can talent be measured? Do individual talents even matter? To address this, I pose a simple question. Which NBA team from the following list was more successful? The first team had, arguably, both the greatest player and greatest coach of all time. The second, with its win, added to the franchise total for second most titles in NBA history. The third was an underdog, who shocked their finals opponent and its roster of 4 future Hall of Famers. The answer is D, all of the above. Why? Because in each of their respective years, these teams were the only ones to take home the championship trophy. Each season in the NBA is like each mission or task we face as Marines. We do not have a unit comprised of the greatest of all time. We just need to be the best when it counts. The discussions and ideas surrounding talent management have been overtaken by a focus on skill and retention. My name is Major Doug Toulotte, and I seek to coach the Marine Corps through a culture shift that prioritizes talent. In 2018, then Secretary of Defense Mattis identified talent management as a focus of effort. Within the Marine Corps, talent management has been specifically identified as an area that needs improvement. However, much of the proposed improvement under the topic of talent management does not actually address talent. Before I continue, it is important to recognize some key terms. Skill, defined as the ability to do an activity or job well. There is no doubt that a point guard playing in the NBA is skilled in the game of basketball. Magic Johnson, Steph Curry, and Oscar Robertson are arguably 3 of the greatest point guards of all time. While thousands of young men and women skillfully play the game of basketball, only a select few will play the game as professional athletes, with even fewer playing at the level of these 3 greats. Retention, defined as continuing to keep something. While each of the 30 NBA teams requires at least 1 point guard, retirement, injury, free agency, and trades often cause players to move between teams. The Marine Corps can draw parallels when we look at permanent change of station orders, retirements, and separations, which cause a constant rotation of our personnel. Each change brings a new point guard to our team. Some are more skilled than others. How do we insert a new player into our lineup? How do we identify and therefore keep the most skilled in our league? Talent, defined as a natural ability to do something. This is where we can better integrate our new player into our existing team. This is where we begin to understand what separates the elite player from a population of skilled players. Point guards are not created equal, yet they are required to fill the same role on each team. How they fill that role begins to reveal the importance of recognizing individual talent. Magic Johnson was not born with a basketball in his hand. He learned that skill over time and with significant practice. But his talent in the ability to arrange players on the floor in front of him to create maximum productivity allowed him to use his skill in a manner that resulted in averaging 10.9 assists per game. This key trait within his personality, his ability to envision maximum productivity, likely influences all aspects of his life, not just when he would step on the court. 3 of the most skilled point guards of all time, whose success manifested itself on the court through the use of 3 very different talents. These 3 words, skill, retention, and talent, make up what I refer to as the 3 buckets of talent management. When viewed through this method of analysis, patterns begin to emerge across the current ideas proposed under the guise of talent management. Present-day discussions on talent management gravitate towards skill and retention, which are traditional focuses of effort within the Marine Corps. Few proposals address how the Marine Corps will identify and leverage the individual talents within its personnel. When the question is asked, how does this proposed idea identify, reward, or retain my most capable, it becomes evident many of the ideas being developed do not target our highest performers. Why do our most capable not receive larger retention or affiliation bonuses? Why are our most qualified for promotion not promoted first? And we wonder why we have issues with retention. However, this leads to my opening questions. Can talent be measured? And do individual talents matter? The short answer is yes, but the Marine Corps must look to civilian America if it wants to find the answers. One example of this is the Varsity management formula developed by Gallup, the global analytics firm. The formula states that when you combine the relationships of a team, With expectations, an appropriate reward and recognition, talent becomes a force multiplier. The result is an increase in per-person productivity. The 2004 Pistons, under head coach Larry Brown, built a relationship in which they worked towards becoming a dominant defensive team. They shared the expectation or objective of reaching the NBA Finals and bringing home a title. Thousands of cheering fans each night on the home court provided instant reward and recognition. Within the Marine Corps, the equation stopped here. Relationships continuously change with each personnel rotation, so billet descriptions, commander's guidance, and tasks become the standard of expectation. No matter where we go, the same manuals define how we reward and recognize our personnel. If the equation stopped there for the Pistons, it would not have been enough, as evidenced by their second-place finish in the NBA Central Division or their below-average ranking in multiple statistics. Yet they took home the title. Why? Because they identified their individual talents and determined how they worked best together. This included integrating new players following 3 different mid-season trades. The result? An underdog that took home the trophy. To gain a deeper understanding of how to maximize talent as the Pistons did in 2004, I proposed the addition of what I refer to as the 4th bucket, or the generational divide. As most of our personnel join the service soon after high school or college, the Marine Corps has a uniquely young workforce. Because of its size and the information age in which it grew up, the millennial generation is the most studied generation in history. In 2017, they represented 35% of the civilian workforce, and in 2019 surpassed baby boomers as the nation's largest living adult population. But our young workforce is different. Millennials represent 47% of our population, and Generation Z makes up a slightly larger 48%. With each recruit and officer candidate class, this number grows. These 2 generations represent 78% of our officers and a massive 97% of our enlisted populations. Because of how thoroughly they have been studied, the needs of millennials in the workplace is well documented. When their needs are not met, they are not psychologically committed to their organization. An analysis of Generation Z will also emerge. However, because they only represent 5% of the civilian workforce, their needs have not been adequately studied. Remember, this represents 48% of our Corps and grows in number every few weeks. Leaderships at all levels would agree. The results when millennial needs are met are a must-have. However, millennial need for independence and desire to be managed differently collides head-on with military culture. The foundation of our training, beginning with recruits and officer candidates, is focused on good order and discipline and instant willingness and obedience to orders. The inherent danger of our occupation requires that all personnel receive the same amount of skill training, from combat marksmanship to individual MOS. So is the need for independence and desire to be managed differently relevant? The question that should be asked is why ignore the needs of the overwhelming majority of our force? With each personnel rotation, we expect every Marine to arrive with the appropriate knowledge and experience. We receive skilled players. We need them to maximize that skill through talent. If we don't know, and therefore cannot leverage, the difference between a Magic Johnson, whose vision in seeing the court was unmatched, or a Steph Curry, who consistently recognized the perfect moment to take a shot, our skilled teams will fall short of their potential. Enter what I previously referred to as the 4th bucket, when a concerted effort is made to individually define talent, skill, and retention, and those categories are viewed in comparison to generational requirements, we will begin to make significant progress in the pursuit of talent management. Our current approach is not balanced. Today, skill dominates the conversation, followed closely by retention. Within the bucket of generational needs, the talent management conversation begins to fade. The MyVector and ATAP systems within the Air Force and Army may address this, but those are isolated initiatives in other services. Talent-specific initiatives, those initiatives in which a concerted effort is made to identify what our personnel naturally do well, is where the ideas rapidly fade. The Army's Battalion Commander Assessment Program is one example of providing opportunity to showcase individual talent, yet this does not occur until consideration for O5 level command. I propose a future state in which the generational needs drive the basis for development of talent management. We have the data on millennials, but remember the unique age demographic of our service. The priority of effort must rest in developing data that reveals the needs of Generation Z. Once defined, generational requirements will set conditions for properly developing talent, skill, and retention. Next, focus on developing the language of individual talent. Corporate America can provide data-driven analysis in many forms. These approaches use terms such as talent, personality, and behavioral differences, but all highlight the importance of maximizing the unique potential in our personnel. The Marine Corps must partner with or develop its own talent identification system. While some of these systems have been used previously within the DoD, they have not been used upon initial entry into service, and they have not been reinforced with any frequency. Only when all personnel are self-aware and leaders know how to identify and leverage the talents of others will we truly seize the talent initiative. From there, skill and retention efforts can be developed. Remember, each player on the Pistons had the skill to play in the NBA, but the way they combined their individual talents with those skills is what led to a championship. A comprehensive approach to talent management, beginning with an understanding of the needs of our personnel and a means to identify and leverage their individual talents, will drive our decision making when it comes to enhancing skill and retaining our best. My name is Major Doug Toulotte. My skill is infantry officer. My talent is thinking strategically. I seek to coach the Marine Corps through a culture shift that prioritizes talent.